for those who are politically wise, a show about the lives of Christians in Ohio involved with politics. Introducing your host, Reverend Thomas Wise.
Greetings, my fellow patriots, saints, and sinners. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. At the end of the show, there will be a blessing. Don't miss it. But first, a word from our sponsor. If you want to email me, you may do so at politically.wise@gmail.com. Please like us on our Facebook page, Politically Wise. The opinions and statements on this show belong to those who give them. The rest of the show belongs to Thomas Wise Words, all rights reserved. Hello, my listeners. This is Reverend Thomas Wise, and the show is called Politically Wise. I have a very special guest today, Rachel Selby. Rachel, say hello to my listeners and tell a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Thomas, for having me on your show. It's a pleasure. I'm happy to introduce myself and chat with you today about the things that are important. As you said, I'm Rachel Selby, and I'm a candidate for State Senate District 6. I am a wife and a mother and a born-again believer in Jesus Christ, and I started to follow his calling for my life and everything I do, and that has led me to this point now to even run for office.
You said District 6. What does that take part of?
So that is all within Montgomery County. It's about a third of the county geographically, and it is a lot of cities. You've got the up north, Brookville, Vandalia, Huber Heights, Inglewood, Clayton area, and then it kind of goes down the side, Riverside, Oakwood, Kettering, and into the southern suburbs of Centerville, Moraine, West Carrollton, Miamisburg, Germantown. Almost a big backward C if you look at Montgomery County.
Yeah, here in Ohio, they really like to slice and dice their communities.
There are some interesting lines, yes.
So what have you've been going around the county, around in your district? Well, how's things look? How are things looking for you? What do you see? A lot of prosperity? You see a lot of what is one of the best things that's happening? Maybe what's some of the worst things that's happening?
Within the district where I'm traveling, yes, I'm learning a lot. Connecting to our local leadership has been a priority of mine to hear how they feel their communities, are doing, and they are kind of the front line there. And then hearing some themes, of course, and then I also stepping back looking at when you consider Montgomery County statistically how we are doing. I am an optimist by nature, but the facts remain that we're lagging pretty badly as a state, especially as a county within the state. An example of that would be regarding our children. So we rank 77th in the state for our infant mortality, and that means, the baby not reaching their first birthday for a variety of reasons. We also have 1 in 5 children experiencing food insecurity, and that's here in Montgomery County. So those are things that are alarming to me, that concern me deeply, and want to dig further in of how we can help at the state level once I get into office.
What's some
and
of the
I
things?
do hear a lot about these. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, you were going to add. Go on.
As far as feedback, workforce development continues to be a top concern. A lot of business leaders having trouble. They have jobs to fill, and they're having difficulty getting employees and retaining those employees, people that can pass a drug test, people that can show up regularly to work, or people that are well-equipped and trained even in their soft skills. So that is certainly a need and a concern that I've heard a lot out talking to people, for sure.
What is the current employment rate or unemployment rate in this district? Do you know those numbers?
I would have to look that up to be certain. I wouldn't want to misquote that within the district specifically. And unemployment nationally, many people are aware, is going down. The economy is doing better than it has in a long time. But when you look at specific areas and in Ohio and sometimes within the district, if that's not true for a lot of families in a particular city or a neighborhood, it can feel that they are forgotten. I've heard that from people as well. They feel like they're still really struggling, and they don't feel like their economy of their world and where they interact, live and work and play and raise their family is doing very well. So we hear some of that as well.
Getting a job is one thing. Keeping a job is
Yeah,
something else. So there seems to be a problem in people keeping jobs. They can get the
it
jobs,
does.
but keeping the jobs it
Hmm.
seems to, needs
Keeping
some
hard.
attention.
And then people I hear they are working and they're not making very much of that job and having to work a second job or a third job and that making it very stressful on the family. So whether that speaks to a lack of training or education or opportunities for higher paying jobs, there does seem to be a concern and a worry that contributes to this problem of not keeping the job or even the jobs they have not being sufficient.
Joblessness or underemployment affects the family. It takes oftentimes a single mom has to work two jobs. It takes her out of the family. The kids are having
Right,
to either stay with grandparents or, at worst case, raise themselves.
right, right. A lot of issues. When you speak to breakdown of the family, there are a lot of factors. I don't know that people always look at all of them. They want to be quick to blame or point the finger at a specific system or one problem, but it's very complex. Humanity is very complex, and the problems we are facing and the struggles that families face. There's a lot going on, a lot.
So, how does your faith play a role in your work?
My faith anchors me every day, and it drives me. It is my faith and my belief system, and it's given me a burden for children. I believe God has given me that. And He'll use me. I mean, He will use anyone willing to help them. I think we're all called to do specific things, whether we're listening to that or open to it. And I know that children need a voice. They need a voice in our community, and the community's voice needs to be heard in Columbus. We need champions to advocate on their behalf. And so that definitely is a very strong motivator for me and feeling an obligation to responding to that burden or that call on my life to help children.
And where do you go to church, you said?
We attend Southbrook Christian Church in Miamisburg.
Good sized church. Good church.
It is.
And tell us a little bit about your family.
So my wonderful husband, Peter, he's the rock of our family. We have 8 children all together. So I was blessed marrying in to have 2 bonus daughters, and they're in their 20s now. One's in college and one is married. And then we have 6 children still in the home. We have the 5 that we've adopted out of the foster care system, and their ages are 4, 6, 11, 13, and 14. And we have a new baby that we got in November. We just have legal custody of her right now, but she is the biological sibling of our 2 youngest adopted. So we're thrilled to have her and have her be a part of our family, working towards adoption on her as well, so that she can grow up with her siblings. So a blessing. We are very blessed with our children.
So, what talents do you bring into this position? If so blessed by God to be elected to it, what have you done in previous work?
So professionally, during the day, when I'm not campaigning, I'm on leave right now, I do work for Dayton Children's Hospital. So I've been there, it'll be 7 years in March. And it's been a tremendous opportunity to see the greater community needs as it relates to looking through the eyes of children. So the hospital, obviously, we're dealing with the sickest children or the children that are injured or the children that have medical complexities and problems. And what we're really seeing from the hospital is obviously you've got about 60% of your patients now are Medicaid kids. For a variety of reasons, a child doesn't have commercial insurance or their family isn't able to afford it. And these kids are sick a lot and struggling with different issues than kids with commercial insurance or more affluent families. So it's caused the hospital really to look at how are we not just helping these kids when they come to us get better, but kind of more that term upstream health of looking what are the factors affecting we treat them and they come back and we treat them and they come back, and what can hospital systems do to really help improve the health of children, because clinically you're looking at only about 20% of an impact for a child's health is clinical work. All of that other 80% is their environment, and it's their social factors and where they live and where they play and where they go to school, and the risk factors and the health factors. Looking at all of that is something the pediatric world is really zoning in on and paying attention to that, because we're realizing we want children to be their optimal health. A lot of that, most of it happens outside of the walls of the hospital. So it's really opened my eyes to some of these deeper social issues and whose role is that, and how the community together collaborates to help our children be more healthy. So that's my professional side. And then personally, my husband and I fostered for almost a decade. It's how our family grew so large so quickly. We've had 25 kids through our home. as foster parents, and we've had the privilege to adopt 5 of them out of that system from different counties. And we've learned a lot, walking through a very broken system. You hear that. It's very sad. It's very broken. It's been very real and raw to us to live through that with these children and see the systems fail firsthand. It's been tragic, but it's also been enlightening because now I can't unsee what I've seen or unlearn what I've learned, and it's motivated me to speak up and speak out and ask the questions of how is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this county doing so much better than that county? And when you look at Ohio, I have looked at Ohio Revised Code and seen how our children lack a lot of basic rights, and there's not accountability for the federally mandated rights that they're supposed to have. There's a lot of attention right now in the media with that. Even today, some news sources I've seen related to Dakota's death and kind of starting to shine a light. When we see a horrible tragedy, the general public starts to wake up to the fact, well, we have a problem. This is really sad. This is horrible. How did it happen? And I'm really thankful that we're having the opportunity to examine this and dig a lot deeper. It is a lot bigger than just a Montgomery County issue. It speaks to the level of the state we have in Ohio of lack of accountability, lack of oversight, lack of an actual model for the state to follow in regards to child welfare. So I've learned so much. I certainly don't know it all, but I definitely have looked into other states and how they are doing it better and are getting better outcomes. And there are things we can do and people we can partner with to help do some immediate transformation to help turn this around here in the state of Ohio, I believe.
Any great idea that you saw in a state that you said they do it better than Ohio, or that you think would be a great idea for Ohio? Like what?
Right. There are a couple of states doing innovative things and things that are working well. One that I really like that is we're exploring it now in Ohio, thankfully, but it is if especially an infant would enter the foster care system, you're supposed to notify any known, relatives or kin, and that is generally what they try to do. And a lot of times they will find someone that can't or unwilling to take this baby. So the child goes into the foster care system and will be there for a couple of years, to be honest. It's very common. And they try to work for reunification, and this can take 2 or 3 years, and a lot of times it ultimately fails for a variety of reasons. And then the state will move for permanency. So that would allow this child to be adopted, hopefully from the foster family they've been with or a family that's been waiting and approved and licensed, praying to adopt a child. But then at that point, Ohio will reach back out to these kinship or relatives or search sometimes even the nation. And if they find someone who has changed their mind or suddenly wants this child, they will remove the child and send them over to this kin or relative. Not that being with a relative is a bad thing, but how detrimental to that child and what preservation of what family exactly is happening here when you talk about a baby placed with a family from birth, growing its first 2, 3 years of life with this family, established relationships, has healthy attachment, doing well and thriving, and then being ripped from all of that to go to a complete stranger. So one model they are considering that is working now in other places is kind of a 6-month rule that they have the 6 months to notify, and if family isn't willing to step in or able to step in within that first 6 months, their rights to access for that child later at permanency, they would be voluntarily giving them up. I see that as a huge win for children and for their future and their stability, their mental health specifically. I think that would be a fantastic model to work here in Ohio, just for one example.
Well, that's a great idea. That is a great idea. So any other particular idea, anything? What's the next best idea you see out there?
Well, like I said, there are a lot of them. A lot of them to me regard specifically to permanency issues. So in the state of Ohio, it's supposed to be an 18-month clock that is ticking. So if a child's removed from their primary or biological family, it's supposed to only take 18 months to work with that family, connect to the services, get the treatment, or perhaps work through any incarcerations or anything that have happened to reunify that family. But we allow up to 2 6-month extensions, and those are often extended as well. So you can see how children sometimes end up years within a system without any permanency. Additionally, kinship placement, which is a term people are hearing a lot right now, they might have been in foster care for a year and then, found this relative or friend of the family and pull the child into that home, the clock stops during kinship, and the child still has no real permanency. So I think Ohio can definitely do better in regards to giving a child the right of permanency within a reasonable time frame, still helping those families and searching for kinship if that's possible and appropriate. But we have a very, very difficult time achieving that in Ohio, and I don't know of any cases that are generally well resolved with permanency in 18 months that I've experienced personally. So I know that is a huge problem we face in Ohio and other states, again, looking at shortening that window of permanency, not allowing the extensions, or just having better things in place to ensure that a child has the right to a permanent loving family when there's so many that want them.
Someone's listening to this program. They're saying, I've been thinking about adopting. What would you say to them?
I would say explore that further. Maybe attend an orientation, talk to somebody that has done that, and certainly look into it, especially if you're a believer. I mean, there's not really any way to get around that biblical command to care for the orphan. Everyone can do something. So if you feel you're being called to do that, dig in, look into it, talk to your county or talk to, again, another family that has done it. It's very, very difficult work, but it is, we say, the hardest thing we've ever done as a family, but the very best thing. There is such a need. There is such a need for families, for kids, fostering or adopting, or even just respite care services. So again, there's something everyone can do, and it is a place where the church can certainly step up and respond to that call and help make a difference during this time of crisis.
In your mentoring, in your adopting and in your political work here, is there someone who's been a mentor to you that you could give a shout out to and say thank you?
In regards to the fostering world specifically?
Yeah, or the fostering world, or any particular that comes to mind.
Sure. I'd have to give a shout out to Holly Schlack. She's a dear friend here in Ohio. She's also the author of Invisible Kids, and we share a heart for these issues. And she was head of Southwestern Ohio CASA program for many years, and it was actually a tragedy that was inspired her to write the book to bring awareness to the issues and how important the public response is. I have learned so much from her, and her heart really is, she believes we have the compassion out there, that we have enough families, that people really do care about children, and it is a lack of awareness and coordination and connecting people. So I have to give her a shout out and for her book, if anyone would like to read that. She has two now, actually, that she has published, but she's been a tremendous mentor. She knows the system better than anyone in the law and has worked with a lot of legislators around the nation to help improve this. So she's a go-to many times when I have a question myself.
And what was her name in the book that she wrote?
Her name is Holly Schlack, Schlaak. And the first book she wrote was Invisible Kids. I know it's the legacy of Marcus Friesel, the young child that died in Cincinnati years back. I can't place the exact year, but he went missing in the foster care system. And I believe it was over 3,000 people stopped what they were doing in the middle of the day to search for this child. And unfortunately, he had died a very tragic, abusive death, they later uncovered. But her reaction to what had happened was, where are those people, those 3,000 people that genuinely cared so much? Where are they in the everyday trenches of helping us fix this problem, to be involved in the system and to help with the mass amounts of children? So she believes, like I do, they are out there. It is a matter of urgency and awareness and connection.
All right. Well, that sounds like a great book. Back to your political campaign.
Sure.
How much political experience are you bringing to this position?
So I've been in politics since 2012. All behind the scenes, though, I'll clarify. I was field manager for Mitt Romney's campaign in Preble County during that presidential election. Learned a lot, very, very busy, got a lot of new connections, and really got me fascinated with how it all works. And then when we moved over to Montgomery County in 2015, I did get involved with the local GOP party. I'm on Central Committee. I've been on our executive leadership, also the vice president of Young Republican Women of Dayton. So I am certainly not new to campaigns and campaigning, but again, I've been behind the scenes many times and never run for it myself. I do hold voluntarily in Washington Township Board of Zoning Appeals. I do serve that way locally, but this is my first time running for office, and so it's been very fun and very exciting. And I've always thought I would do it someday. It was kind of surprising to go for it right now, but it's always about timing um, and knowing what you're supposed to do and when. And again, I speak to the issues I'm most passionate about. They've become so very urgent that I cannot wait. I cannot wait someday to get involved and do this and fight for children. So not new to politics, but new for running for office myself, if that answers it.
What advice would you give someone who's thinking about running for office?
I would say, really explore it, really pray about it, and have the courage to obey. It's very, very difficult to decide to do this. I was surprised how much I wrestled with it, but God equips the called. And so we don't fight these battles alone, and I've been reminded of that continuously, that He's asked me to do this, and He is working on behalf of what He wants to see accomplished. So yes, we have that responsibility to respond and obey, but it's not putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, because in ourselves we don't do much. We need His help and His divine intervention, and I have certainly felt His hand on this, and felt His presence the whole time. So I would encourage you to really pray about it, and then if you really feel you're being called to do that, to obey, to step out and see what that might look like, and how you can be obedient.
Well, I've been doing quite a bit of the questions here. Is there anything that you wanted to add to this interview that you have not, that I've not thought to ask?
I can think that it might be important to talk about the hot topics or the pressing issues, the things that come up a lot, other than what we discussed as far as how well do I feel this district is doing based on statistics or what community leaders are saying. When I'm out talking to the general public and to voters, or getting questions from people out when I'm speaking, there are a couple of issues that come up right now. The guns are a big issue, and the Second Amendment rights. And that's been surprising to me how forefront that has been, and I think it speaks to the level of fear that society has right now. And I'm seeing a lot of that fear manifest, and it doesn't matter which side people are on that. There's a side of people are so afraid and feel so terrorized for what happened in the Oregon district, understandably. They're very afraid of all guns, and they just want someone to take control of everything, and they're looking to the government for that. And then you see the other side of, kind of the other reaction to that, of fear that our rights are being threatened, that because, the other side is screaming so loudly to control guns and regulate guns, that our rights, our Second Amendment rights, constitutional right to defend ourselves, to carry arms, might be threatened as well. And what I see is it's the same. There's fear in both of those approaches, and kind of clamoring for the attention of government. So what I hope to do is really be able to speak to that issue, or any of the issue, without the fear, kind of separating that and looking at what our issues are, and how we can have that thoughtful, calm, logical discussion, talk about what people are afraid of, and come to some solutions without all of the fear. So I think voters can demand that, to look to leadership to be able to have these conversations without so much fear. And that's, it's frustrating to me to see that, but I recognize that it is real, and people really are afraid.
Mm-hmm. What else? What other issues they've been asking you about?
Education choice has come up quite a bit. Not everybody is following that, but again, talking to community leaders or school board members or superintendents, even some parents, it's hard to get the right information sometimes of what's going on. You have an article here or there, you have some social media things happening, but there's a lot of concern with the Ed Choice and the school voucher program, and how they're grading school districts, those report cards, and who's qualifying for the funding to put a child into private school. And then what are the ramifications of that going to be on the local school districts if it falls directly and entirely on them? So that is another, I would say, big issue that I'm seeing out there, along with the Second Amendment and gun issue.
Any other issue that you think should be brought up?
I'd say those are the two biggest that I run into. is at this level, the state level is really where a lot of the things happen that affect our daily lives, but a lot of focus from the general public generally tends to be at the national stage and what's happening federally within our government. So there's some frustration there, understandably, but for what I'm running for and the issues I hope to impact at the state level, some of that doesn't really apply, or I have not really spoken to.
All righty. Well, thank you for this interview. How does someone get a hold of you?
So we have a website, rachelselby.com. It's a good way to connect and read about me or a bio or my stance on any issue. It also has the contact information there. And I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So if you look up Rachel Selby for State Senate District 6 on Facebook, you can find that and links to things, how the campaign's going, and if you'd be interested in learning more or getting involved. There's certainly a lot to do here in these final critical weeks of the campaign.
And so spell that website again for my listeners.
Rachel Selby, so it's RACHELSEEY.com. B as in boy, Y.com. RachelSelby.com. So just my first and last name.com will get you to my campaign website. And then again, if you're interested in learning more or connecting or helping out, you can find all of that there.
And time is running short. You have a primary coming up in March 17th?
March 17th. Yep, just about a month out now. So it's a full sprint ahead, and it's going very well. I got a lot of encouragement, a lot of local support. So that's been fantastic, and truly connecting with people and our voters out there. And again, to speak to our community level leadership. It's been a wonderful experience. I'm loving it. It's been a great journey so far, and we will be finishing strong.
All righty. Well, great. Thank you again for this interview.
Thank you.
This is Reverend Thomas Wise, and the show is called Politically Wise. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. Thank you for listening today. If you want to email me, you may do so at politically.wise@gmail.com. Please like us on our Facebook page, Politically Wise. Now, here's your blessing. Blessings based on Psalms, chapter 30, verses 6 through 12. May God make you feel secure. May you not be shaken. May the Lord hear you. May the Lord be merciful. May the Lord be your help. May you proclaim God's faithfulness. May your cries turn to dancing. May you be clothed with joy. May your heart sing. May you declare God as Lord. May you give thanks to God forever.